However, these regulations have added yet more complexity to the legal framework, and with yet more piecemeal amendments. And with the announcement today of a new coronavirus legal framework, would it not be a good idea to actually start consolidating the regulations as part of this exercise, so that it is all as simple and as clear as it possibly can be? Because in the past, and possibly still, the government has muddled up and blurred the lines between guidance, advice and the law, and there has been a huge amount of confusion, especially for organisations like the police. And I do feel that in these regulations, it's inherent that the government expects this virus to be around for quite some time. And it is therefore time for an economic package that does include a universal basic income for everybody, to support them through the next 6 months and make sure that actually people can not only support the economy, but also feed their children, feed themselves, and live a reasonable life. One of the things that really has exercised me during this whole coronavirus is the fact that the government has been bypassing Parliament. Now, I know that there has been the debate in the other place today, and MPs are going to be able to speak on these new regulations tomorrow, and then they do vote. But the vote will be yes or no. And I'd like to say this is not a debate. A debate suggests there is a backwards and forwards, and then a vote would imply a vote for perhaps amendments and alterations. There is somebody that I follow on Twitter called Adam Wagner. He's a barrister, human rights barrister, and a visiting professor of law at Goldsmiths University. And he said today, "One of the things this crisis has brought home to me is how illiberal outcomes are inevitable when hugely important decisions are made by a small group in secret and without parliamentary scrutiny. Biases and personal preferences of those in the room are inevitably amplified." And for me, that sums up how these regulations are consistently formed and then imposed on us. And so it's not only about actually not bypassing Parliament anymore and allowing Parliament a say in improving these regulations perhaps, but it's also about understanding that a small clique of people deciding everything for the rest of us is a really unhealthy way of going about things, and is absolutely not democracy. So I would support as well the noble lords who have said already that local authorities need to be brought in, and the noble lord the minister did say in his opening remarks something about the government continuing to work with local authorities. Now, that's the sort of phrase that I would go ahem to. I don't believe it for a moment, and I think local authorities would agree that that's not what has been happening. Many of us do not trust private companies to have the interests of the population at their heart. But we do understand that for local authorities, it is their work, it is their job to do that, to put our interests first. And so what the government has to do now is give local authorities the power to test and trace, give the local authorities the funding so that they can make that happen, and then give them anything else that they need to get the job done and done properly. Because let's face it, Serco and the government has made the most awful mess of this so far, wasted billions and allowed thousands to die. And I would also like the noble lord the minister to perhaps, I didn't hear him respond to my noble friend Lady Bennett's questions in the last debate, and so I would like to ask that he perhaps writes to her with the answers so that we can all be clear exactly what the government is doing.